Welcome, ladies. I am so thrilled to be here and bring the Being Brave tour to Jackie Cote's Destiny Makers community. Jackie, thank you so much for letting us come in and share the brave stories of the women in your community. And tell us a little bit about what is Destiny Makers?
Oh my goodness. Destiny Makers is a women empowerment movement where I want to help every woman feel more confident in their skin week to week to stand in awakening, empowering, and owning who they are. And we do all sorts of stuff from intentional goal setting to manifestation practices to business practices. It's a culmination of things, and you never know what you're going to get, but you always get what you need when you leave after every session.
Yes. And I have to say, the thing that I love about Jackie, and I've told her this before, is that whenever you talk with her, she gives you these little golden nuggets. She finds these little things in you because she can see in you what you can't always see in yourself. And that is the magic of Jackie and her community and working with her as a coach. And she is just such a delight. And I have seen how the women talk about you, and it's what a blessing you are. And so thank you for letting us come and put the spotlight on the brave stories of the ladies. Your Destiny Makers is so aligned with this movement, the Being Brave movement, because you talk about awakening, empower, and own. And those are the questions that are going to lead the stories today. We're going to put it a little bit in your terms and a little bit in our terms of being brave. And so we have some really fabulous ladies here with us today, and we're going to interview Domonique Lawless, Angela Hall, and Tina Palmgren. And we're going to be going in that order. So as you're listening to the stories, we're going to do a question. We're going to give them a couple minutes to answer, and we're going to move through the story that way. But first of all, I just want the ladies to just pop on real quick and just say who they are and say hello to the audience and just give us a real quick little sentence or two about who you are and what you do. So Domonique?
Hi, everybody. My name is Domonique Lawless, and I have worked in the field of blindness for over 10 years. But most recently, I have been working as a possibilities coach where I help people navigate through times of change and see the possibilities they might not be able to see for themselves and help them live a life that's really in alignment with who they are. And so that's a little bit about me. I live in Virginia, and I'm always up to learning a new hobby or something like that.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Dominique. Angela, tell us a little bit about you.
Hi, I'm Angela Hall, the helpful chick. I live in the southwest corner of Virginia, which is also the birthplace of Napoleon Hill. I am passionate about tech and systems for online businesses, and business owners come to me to streamline their operations, improve business processes, and create clear delegation workflows that keeps their business running without constant firefighting.
Fabulous. And Tina, give us a little snippet about what you do.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, I'm Tina Palmgren with Excelling Your Business. I am the wizard of automation because I love to automate those systems that Angela talked about, and it's making it easy and fun for people to do. You may not like Excel, but by the time you're done with me, you're gonna love it.
Oh my gosh, I love this. And so, ladies, just know that we are telling the stories of women, whether they're in business. These three ladies happen to be in business because Jackie's community tailors to that. But there's women who are in doing all different types of things. And so as you are listening to, I'm going to ask our audience. And so we do have an audience, ladies. So if I could have our audience come off mute for just 1 second and give us a hello. And okay, ladies, are you all off mute there real quick? Are Jackie and Jen and Heather and Jodi and Deborah, ladies, go. Can you give us a hello?
Hello.
Hello!
Hello.
Yay! I'm so excited, guys, to have you here. We have two people just joined too. Yay!
Hey, you know what, ladies, it means so much to us to have you here supporting our stories because I know it is not easy to share a story because these are not business stories. These are stories of a time we had to be brave. Maybe that does refer to a time in our business, but a lot of times it's something else. So Dominique, we're going to start with you. It's in Jackie's terms, it's that awakening moment. What was that circumstance, that moment or that season when you realized something had to change in your life? What was that circumstance of like, you know what, I had to be brave during this?
Yeah, so For some of the Destiny makers, this might be a surprise and some it's not, but I am blind. I was born blind, and while my story is unique to me, there are aspects of my stories that are so common across, blind people. And so for me, growing up, I was denied access to the services I needed, like reading and writing Braille, and I was constantly shoehorned into boxes because of what I could or could not see. And I always felt like something's got to be different. I wanted to use the word blind, but I was made to use words like visually impaired or sight challenged, things like that. So for me, it was I knew that I was a blind person, but people weren't letting me have access to the skills that I needed to be a successful blind person.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's quite a story. So, what's interesting about that, Dominique, is that sometimes, I mean, how many people can relate whether whatever that limiting belief is or beliefs that other people put upon us? Yeah, so we're going to get dive more into that story. Angela, how about you? What was your circumstance?
Uh, so I was diagnosed with degenerative disc, which was, as it progressed, it was making it harder and harder for me to work a regular job until I got to the point where I had to stop working. My daughter was supporting me, and that just didn't sit well with me. So it was at that point that I decided I needed to figure out something to be able to make money from home
Mm,
uh, so that I could at least, pay for my own expenses.
yeah, that's quite a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so we're going to pop over to Tina and get a little snippet into her life and what her circumstance was of that brave time you had to be brave.
Well, for me, it started out as a little kid. My mom had German measles when she was pregnant for me, or was exposed to them. She said she never had them. So I had heart issues. I also am legally blind in one eye, so I still have one eye to see out of. But growing up, everybody told me I was lucky to be alive, and I didn't realize I took that and said, I don't deserve anything else. So not until many, many, many years later did I finally realize that I am deserving. God kept me alive for a reason. So learning about that was huge for me.
Yeah. Wow. Three different, totally different stories, different things to tap into. So what were those? We're going to pop back up to Dominique. What were the fears and doubts that you had to face during that time? And then how did you start moving through them? Or let's leave that last part to the next question. But let's just talk about the fears and the doubts that during that time.
So I don't know that as a child I necessarily had fears and doubts around it. I would say certainly moving into high school and college, um, I had some fears and doubts, but a lot of it was placed around the misconceptions of other people. And so um, I had a teacher who would sit next to me and take notes on what was written on the board, and she used to actually mutter under her breath that I would never be anything and that I wasn't going to amount to anything, and that I wasn't going to make it in this world. And between things like that and people placing their own values on my worth because of my vision, sometimes it made me question, it really made me question who would hire me or how successful I would be. And I had to make my own definition of what success is and really kind of, tune out the haters, because there were people who are going to praise me for being able to put my shoes on in the morning, and, people who are going to doubt me for having the job that I have and being able to take care of myself and live independently and things like that. So I really had to kind of get tunnel vision, so to speak, to say, I can do this. I'm going to be successful, and it doesn't matter what other people think.
Right. And for fighting, it was like fighting to prove yourself every step of the way.
In a
Yeah.
way, yeah, sometimes, because you learn other skills to do the same thing that your sighted peers are doing. And it's so possible, but you need to be plugged into good mentors and role models to be empowered and to help yourself.
Yeah, and we're going to get to that too. So awesome. That just thanks for sharing that, some of the struggles might be. And because I have a feeling that whether somebody is in your situation or a different situation, how many people have had to fight against that to kind of prove yourself that you can do it. And Angela, let's get back to those limiting health challenges. I mean, those had to have some limitations. So what were some of the feelings of that came across for you? Was there some, confidence issues? What were some of the things that you really were challenged with during that time?
Um, I was thinking back to what you had asked Domonique about fears, and I was thinking fear wasn't really an option because like I said, I couldn't work a regular job. I couldn't stand for very long, couldn't sit for very long. It was just too painful. Um, but so to say I was broke would be an understatement. So I didn't have a choice. I had to figure something out because I refused to let my daughter support me for the rest of my life. Um, so it was from that point, just I would say there was some uncertainty, because I came from a world of corrections and I knew nothing about doing anything online. Um, so it was interesting to say the least, to try to find something, some way that I could make money from home,
Mhm.
and not have to worry. So I can set my own schedule. I can get up when I want, sit down when I want, all that good
Yeah.
stuff.
So was there any moment that you're thinking, this is not the life that I had that planned for myself? This is not what I saw for myself? Anything that
Oh
come
gosh.
along
I
like that?
think I felt that all my life. Many, many different phases in my life. Like I never planned to have kids, but then boom, there she was. Um, but yeah, I definitely did not ever envision myself in the position I was in. I've always been independent and taking care of myself. And so, I never even
Yeah.
thought I'd be in that position.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll get to our next question. We're going to be talking about that pivot point, that moment where we changed lanes. But let's go to Tina next and hear what she was facing as she was dealing with some of the discovery, if you will, of this situation and moving into that pivot point. What came up for you in the feelings and the emotions? Because that's how women, that's how we relate to a lot of this. Is those deep down things that we have to go through.
Exactly. I didn't, we're now fast forward into my late 40s when I started working on my own business and I hired a coach to help me with business, right? And it's like, what do you mean I got to talk about me? Like, no, I just want to do the business. So learning that I felt lucky to be alive and that I didn't deserve any more for a long time was very interesting to learn. Then discovered I also felt guilty to be alive because my parents had to pay for the surgery because it was what's the word they always say? Experimental at the time. So the insurance company wouldn't pay for it. But I also realized later that abandonment came up for me because in the 60s, parents left your kid at the hospital. I was at the hospital for 6 weeks as a 14-month-old baby, 14 to 15 and a half months old. In that time, they did a bunch of different testing, didn't know what I had. I ended up with pneumonia and then I had the open heart surgery. They came and got me a week later. So in that, they came down a couple times, but it was 9 hours away for them. So being abandoned became a huge issue. So when I was 31, I lost my first husband and his two kids because the ex-wife wouldn't let me see them anymore. So abandonment came around again. So I was still feeling unworthy, very depressed, didn't know what was going on for a long time and it all related back to the abandonment as child and just so these patterns kept repeating until I discovered them in my late 40s. And yeah. So it's just the scared, depressed, um, just learning to love yourself again, right? That's
Yeah.
really what it was all about.
Yes. And so in our stories, there's that moment, thanks, Tina. There's that moment where we pivot There's sometimes it's gentle, sometimes it's in your face kind of thing, sometimes it hits you on the head. That moment where you have to tap into your brave, that empowerment moment, in Jackie's terms, in her community. You've already awakened to what the situation is. And Domonique, what was that moment of that turning point, that shift for you, where you felt you started feeling empowered and you started feeling these different emotions that were going to carry you through to the next point?
So I always tell people that my mom raised me to be the person that I am, and she poured so much into me to make me successful. But being around successful and independent blind people, they raised me to be the blind person that I am. And when I was 13, I moved from New York to Louisiana, which was a huge culture shock. And I got invited to a seminar at a place called the Louisiana Center for the Blind. And remember, I had been having this feeling of I'm supposed to use the word blind. I'm supposed to use the skills of blindness. And I get there and I'm the youngest person there. I think I was about 13 at the time. And there were high school students and college students and professionals. And they were studying in Honduras and Ghana and going to law school and going to medical school and doing all of these things. And I was like, holy cannoli, I found my tribe. And I got plugged in with so many mentors. One of my best friends I met at that seminar, and I am still being mentored and grown by by someone who works there who is a very dear friend as well. And I always tell people like that was the turning point where I realized I have been on to something. I knew it was possible, but they reaffirmed it, and it was perfect because before I moved, I was with people outside of my family who had a little bit of a negative viewpoint on blindness. And it was, they were struggling with that among some other things, but it was turning blindness into a very negative thing and not showing the hope and the possibility associated with it. And so I would say that weekend was my turning point. Did I do things perfectly forever after that? No, but that gave me the empowerment and the shot in the arm to really start looking at what I wanted out of life, even back when I was 13.
Yay. Yay. I want to give you a little cheer there because isn't that moment where you're like, I think I can get through this. I'm in a new way. I'm a new perspective. Yeah, thanks, Dominique. That was really great. Angela, what was that moment for you?
So in my search for how to make money from home, I found an online training program, and I was a little nervous at first because you hear people, granted, this was like 15 years ago, so you hear about people getting scammed online. And so, but I started the training program. It taught me how to build websites, do affiliate marketing and SEO, which is search engine optimization. Um, it was, I didn't know anything about a website. Only thing I knew about a dashboard was I had one in my car. So I'm just like, uh, I was always scared to make changes. I started to build a website and I was afraid I was going to break it. Fast forward now, I could care less if I break it because I know how to fix it. Um,
Yeah.
but I also made some really good friends and mentors in that training program that taught me a lot. Um, and the more I learned, the more confident I got in my abilities. And it was just meant to be, in my opinion, because the big thing was that I discovered an affinity I didn't know I had. So I have a real affinity for technology. I haven't met a system yet I can't figure out. I've met a few I hate, but I can still figure them out. Um, and so, yeah, it was a real pivotal time, I would say, in my life. Like I said, I worked in corrections and fast food management and knew nothing about online or websites or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was pretty incredible.
Yes, and that had to be somewhat liberating too, finding this new gift, this new skill that you had that you didn't even know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. And now to be able to help people with that. Oh my gosh, that's even better yet. Yeah, thanks, Angela. And Tina, what was that moment of kind of awakening, pivoting, moving to that next space?
I think for me, the biggest movement I made was when I decided to divorce my second husband and really started working on me at that point. I just had to stand up for me because nobody else was going to, right? And and that was really the self-love thing because I wasn't happy. He's a great guy. We're still friends. But at the same time, it was like I needed to find me again because I didn't know who I was anymore. And and the day I decided to divorce him, I was offered two jobs. So it was like, okay, universe, you're telling me to do something different. So I worked a temporary job for a year and a half or a year and 9 months, and it was a good place for me to go because it really strengthened that I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to do accounting. I didn't want to do the month end. And I was already had my business, but I was just running it as a hobby. And it really had made it clear that no, I don't want to work for somebody else. And I think for me that learning to love myself and say, no, I can do this on my own was huge for me.
You can do it on your own. You are capable. I love it. Just so many great. I hope that the ladies listening are getting some little nuggets out of this because I know I sure am. And so let's go to Dominique. And what were the lessons that you learned kind of from your story of um, not realizing that you didn't have to prove yourself anymore, that you were capable, you have this new perspective on where you're at. What were the lessons that you learned?
I think one of the biggest ones is that everything is figure outable.
Oh,
Um, I live in a world where things are not accessible, but that has taught me to be, not always accessible, but that has taught me to be a problem solver. If
oh,
there is a road closed, I use my cane and I go in a different direction and find where I'm supposed to go. So I think, some of the biggest ones is just take a breath and problem solve your situation because everything's figure outable. Also, there's always going to be someone there to doubt you. And sometimes that comes out of love, and sometimes that simply comes out of misconceptions. But trust your gut, trust your intuition, and know that, if you get plugged in with the right people, if you get the right skills, if you have the right opportunities, you are going to be able to make things happen. Now,
yeah.
darn.
Great lessons to learn, huh? And it's so interesting because we all have our own lessons that we have to learn. And if we don't learn them, I think maybe Tina said earlier that, it circles back around until we learn those things. Angela, how about you? What were your lessons out of your story, out of this awakening of and realization, and you were in a circumstance that you didn't ask for, as were the other ladies too, just things that, that you have to deal with. So what were the lessons for you?
Well, I have to say that I'm a bit hard-headed and I always have to learn things the hard way and I don't like to be told what to do. So so yeah, there were many, many lessons. I think it's been a continued learning throughout my entire life that I can do anything I want. Um, it's all in a matter of figuring out how bad I want it and what I'm willing to do to get it.
Mhm.
Um, lessons. Oh my gosh. Never give up. Of course, for me, like I said, it was never an option. It wasn't a choice. I don't feel like I made a conscious choice. Like it was, I just had to do it. Um, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how else to word it. Or like it really just, I didn't feel I had a choice. I just had to push through no matter what. Didn't matter how many times I failed. You just have to get back up. I have to keep going
Mm.
because my goal was to make money. I had to support myself, and
Yeah.
I wasn't going to stop until that happened.
Yeah, I love it. Love it. That resilience, that grit. Let's keep going. I love those things that you had to tap into, and those are our lessons sometimes. That those emotions that get us through to that next spot. And what about for you, Tina? What was it? What were the lessons for you?
I think the biggest lessons were really just keep working on yourself, right? Let's keep working on your limiting beliefs and keep working on your self-love because every time you get to another spot, there's something else there. So recently, besides the abandonment and lucky to be alive, I also realized through a session with coaching, and that's, I think, the biggest lesson is to continue your coaching with different people, was that I learned I was shut down as a child and told to shut up a lot, so I never asked questions. In
Mhm.
third grade, I discovered I was really good at solving problems, so I became the fixer. And I was really good at it and I didn't have to ask questions to figure it out. I did it on my own. So learning that I was told to shut up all the time shut me down from questions. So now I'm learning to embrace that curiosity again. So now it's making it easier to actually relate to other people and do things. And I would have never discovered any of that, any of the stuff if I hadn't been in coaching with, and it's not always the same coach because we all keep going and growing and we
Mhm.
grow out of coaches too, right? So even Jackie has coaches, coaches have coaches. If you're in business by yourself and you don't have a coach, that would be the one thing I would say to do is to get some kind of a coach. You think you're going into business and you're just going to get a business coach. Well,
So tell me, what is the biggest thing that your coaches have helped you do?
figure out my own fears and
Mhm.
what's holding me back, like the lucky to be alive, the guilty to be alive. People told me I shut up. I didn't know I was abandoned as a kid. When you're 14 months old, you don't remember being abandoned, but subconsciously. And then my husband died. The kids were gone. My second husband did some stuff and it triggered all that abandonment. And I didn't know it at the time. So until you become aware, you can't change it.
Yeah, yeah. And this brings up a really great point. So, ladies, you have two more questions here before we sign off. Is one, the next question, I want you to, what are you most proud of? As you think back on your story, what's maybe a word, maybe it's you that you are proud that you tapped into your grit, your resilience. What's that kind of word that you would go, yeah, you know what? Because we can put these words in our book of proof. And Tina, you were just saying there was multiple times that these stories came up and until you learn some of the lessons that you talked about, but now there's this word that maybe just so be thinking about what word that might be that as you go into the next situation, because we live life, there are issues. What's that one word that might carry you through the next one? And then after that, we'll come around again. Then we'll do some inspiration of what we would like to leave the ladies with. So, but first, Dominique, what's that one word that you might think of? And then I'm also going to ask the ladies in the audience, think back of a time when you had to be brave, that then you had that pivot point. It's like that awakening, that empowerment moment. But what is the word that carried you through? Was it grit? Was it resilience? Was it you maybe whatever the word was for you? I'm running out of words here real quick. So let's see what the ladies here say. So Dominique, what's your word? And we'll have the other ladies put a word in the chat for us.
I would say opportunity would be mine because I truly believe I am living the life that I am meant to live and that I was meant to do it as a blind person. And that has opened the doors to me meeting so many fantastic people and having an amazing career and getting to do things that most people don't get the chance to do.
Yes.
So I think opportunity is the word.
Yeah. So, but let's put that in the terms as just not a word, but you are seeing it's you. Bring it back to you because that's something that you actually saw. You're seeking those opportunities. So let's give you credit for looking for those opportunities because it wouldn't happen without you.
Definitely.
Yeah, so we're going to applaud you. We're going to celebrate that for you. So, Angela, what can we celebrate with you? What's your word that, just take a little credit and go, yeah, you know what? I did that, you know?
Well, I was having trouble coming up with one word, but a phrase came to mind. And that was get shit done. I think that's
Yeah.
the story of my life. That's you just, I'm not to go on a tangent, but I'm amazed at the young people today that don't know how to get shit done. They don't have that mentality, like to just figure it out and do what needs to be done.
Yes. And another word that you mentioned too earlier was stubbornness.
Yeah.
And that kind of goes with that, that's let's get it done, let's make it
Yeah.
happen, let's not give up.
Yeah.
That has a lot of grit to it. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And Tina, what about you? What can we celebrate with you?
I'm gonna go with the word sparkle. And
Oh,
so it's kind of different because I say now, after struggling for so many years, I say life's too short not to sparkle. I wear glitter on my forehead anytime I put any makeup on, I put glitter and everybody's like why? And I just say life's too short not to sparkle. And they're like, you're right. Every one of them say you're right. And so to me, it's just a reminder to be happy, to love yourself and enjoy life no matter what's going on.
yes. And I know when we talked before too, that you had mentioned that you now have a love for self-discovery, for that journey to keep, encouraging that be curious about who you are and what you bring to the world. And with that positive attitude, I know you were mentioning some things about that too. Just that. And I love what you said to that sparkle. Life's too short not to sparkle, girls. Yes. So as we close out here, Dominique, just real quick, what would you like to leave the ladies with? A word of inspiration or maybe a little bit of hope?
There are so many possibilities that people can't always see for themselves because they're stuck in their own situations. But explore those possibilities, be open to them, get connected with people who will pour into you and help grow you and mentor you. And those possibilities, those pathways will just become more and more abundant.
Awesome. Great words to leave the ladies with. And Angela, how about you?
So I would say the advice that I've always given my daughter that anytime you have something that you want out of life, there's just three things that you have to do. The first thing is to figure out what that is that you want, and sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. The second thing is figure out what do I have to do to get that? What are
Mhm.
the steps? And then the third step is just do it, no matter what.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Great words. Great words to live by. And Tina, how about you? What would you like to leave the ladies with?
I guess, decide on what you want to do and how can you be of service to people or to yourself even. For me, it's all about doing things that I love, that bring me joy and that I never thought were anything like a big deal because it comes so easy and naturally to me that I think I never gave it the value that it actually is. So undervaluing yourself and discovering joy because our gifts are super easy to us. To other people, they're very difficult. And, just talking with Jackie and everybody else, Jackie's really good at pointing that out to me. And it's like, oh, okay. I can embrace that. But, and just having fun with it and really being yourself. I think that's learning who you are and discovering that joy.
Wow. Dominique, Angela, Tina, thank you for your words. Thank you for inspiring us. Jackie, thank you for letting us come to your beautiful community and touching the hearts of all these ladies and sharing their stories. And it has just been a pleasure. It's a blessing and an honor to share your stories, ladies. So thank you for being part of the Being Brave Tour.